Hello everybody, welcome to my channel Tabby Loves. I'm Tabitha and I talk to you about the things that I love. Today we're going to be doing my spring book recommendation master list. This is going to include books from a variety of genres, books that I have read and have not read, which I'll split into two different categories so that you know that the recommendations of books I haven't read are based on the vibes alone. And without further ado, let's go ahead and just get started. Now, I want to start out with some classics that you can read during this time that are very spring vibe-esque. And some of these are definitely more spring than others, and not all of these take place during spring. But there's just something about these books in particular that gives spring. And the first one is going to be, I think, a pretty obvious one. But The Secret Garden, also this edition, is gorgeous. It's so beautiful. It's got like the golden foiled edges, all of that. And a really short book. This one's real cute. I think it's technically a children's book, so, you know, it's also really easy to read. It's a fun little detour from your normal everyday life into the life of a child stuck in a new house and finding a secret garden. What more could you want? The next one I also put on this list is the original Bambi. This was written by Felix Salten way before Disney was a thing. And this was actually banned in Germany as anti-Nazi propaganda because of some of the viewpoints that he put in this book and the environmentalist themes and all of that. And Bambi has always had a special place in my heart. Both the movie from Disney as well as this story. Another really short one. You can get through this really quickly. And it's just a great book about life and death in the natural world. So, you know, an automatic win for me, in my book at least. And then up next, The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. I don't know how far a book needs to be published in the past for it to be considered a classic, but this one was in 1968, so I still think it counts. It's a classic fantasy novel, and there's just something about unicorns I feel like are inherently spring. Even though some of the original concepts of this book can be a little bit darker and not necessarily set in the springtime, I still definitely recommend reading this in the spring. And then finally, the last classic I have on this list is Pride and Prejudice. If you haven't read Pride and Prejudice, what's stopping you? I mean, I think honestly any book that has to do with love and love connection could be read during the spring, despite what time of year it's set in. I definitely have quite a few contemporary romances on this list. But that being said, Pride and Prejudice. I actually had to read this in high school. I don't know if that's true for everybody else, but I adored having to read this in high school. I was so happy. I actually already owned this book, so I was able to bring in my own copy into class too and everything. Fantastic. And along the same lines, I don't know if this necessarily counts as a classic, but the Bridgerton books I also think are a great thing to pick up for the spring if that's what you're interested in. Since, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think the spring is when it's debutante season anyway. So anything with debutantes, I definitely think would fit into this category. Next, a little bit of a smaller genre, but for graphic novels, my first recommendation is Wolf Children. This woman, she had fallen in love with this man that can turn into a wolf, and they had 2 kids together before he is tragically killed after the birth of their second child. And she now has to navigate raising these 2 children that are both half like wolf, basically, and having to navigate the world on her own. And it's sad, it's impactful, but it's one of my favorites. Like, I absolutely adore this story. Different vibes, but also a graphic novel. The Tea Dragon Society is another great one. These ones are short. Like, this one's kind of a honker, though I still think you could probably finish this in a day because it is a graphic novel, so it is, like, mostly, like, pictures and stuff. But Tea Dragon Society is nice and short. It's really cute. This kid comes across the Tea Dragon Society and wants to raise their own tea dragon, and so they start getting involved. It has like a few books in the series. Definitely really cute. Highly recommend. We're going to move on to books in a contemporary setting now. I want to start with one of my favorite contemporary romance standalone series, and that is the When in Rome series. Right now there's When in Rome, Practice Makes Perfect, and Beg, Borrow, or Steal, or Beg, Borrow, and Steal, something like that. And I think you could really read any or all of these books during the springtime and it would fit. Though I would say that Practice Makes Perfect, I think, is the most spring-esque, because not only is there, like, the flower shop that the main character owns in this one, but also they're preparing for a wedding, and I feel like spring is a great time for weddings. Like, there's just something about the springtime that makes me think weddings. Though I feel like more weddings happen in the summer, but that's beside the point. But like When in Rome follows a pop star as she wanted to get away from the fame and everything, and she ends up breaking down on this guy's front lawn and ends up staying with him and finds out he runs this pie shop, and obviously they get close, they fall in love. You know the drill. It's not a spoiler to say they fall in love. This is a romance book. You know they're gonna fall in love. Just saying. And then Practice Makes Perfect. It follows the after the events of When in Rome, and it's the bodyguard of the pop star and then the pie shop owner's little sister. Love it. Absolutely love it. Another contemporary book, but this one's more slice of life, not romance centered, and that is Welcome to the Hum Num Dong Bookshop. Now, this one, I think, is if you are looking for something slow, something cozy. If this is basically a woman running a bookstore and her musings around running the bookstore, her musings on, like, the coffee, and she has this guy that she hires that is a barista, and he's a great barista, and he also goes into his own musings as well, him going to the place they get the coffee beans from, developing friendships with those people, all of that fun stuff, and how, like, bookstores bring us together, the importance of community, all of that fun stuff. I loved this book. I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars. I couldn't put it down. The vibes were just immaculate. And if you want something lighthearted for spring, this is definitely where you're gonna want to go. By a Thread by Lucy Score. This one is, this woman gets fired because she gets into a fight with this customer, and the customer, who was out to dinner with his mom, who owns a really big, I think it's a fashion label, she forces him, or not really forces him, she offers a job to the serving lady that her son got fired, and the server agrees because she needs the money, and it is a boss-employee relationship that's kind of, I don't want to say enemies to lovers, because calling them enemies feels too much, but they definitely were like butting heads right at the start of all of this, and they work past their differences. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was fun. If you want something that's like, it's not short, but if you want something like a little bit longer, a little bit spicier, you're definitely going to want to check out this one. Also, along similar lines, kind of, Red, White, and Royal Blue. This is one where I'm pretty sure it doesn't take place in spring. However, the romance vibes always make me think of spring anyway, and this one is the son of the President of the United States and one of the princes of England fall in love. And it's like a whole thing. It's right around the time that his mom is trying to be reelected as president too. Yeah, it's a female president. But I remember really enjoying it. I mean, there are better ones out there, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a 5-star reads by any means, but I felt like I had to include it in this list. Okay, the final contemporary one, actually, I want to include real quick, is Outdrawn, which is a sapphic work rivals to lovers story where both of these women, who were apparently academic rivals in the past, and they have been drawing comics for years, and their comics are always fighting for first place, right? One of them gets hired on with the company that the other one already works at, and they are now forced to be working on the same project together. And of course that means that they do butt heads, but that also means that they get to really spend time with each other and get to really, like, know each other more. And I absolutely loved this comic. It made me get back into webtoons for a little bit. And unfortunately, me getting back into webtoons didn't last as long as I wish it did. But honestly, since the last time I used webtoons, that like site has changed so much that I wasn't even sure what I was doing. Like now I have to pay to view some things, and like I don't know. And I was like, oh, this actually isn't worth it. Beside the point. I loved the artistic nature of this. I loved the diving into the comic artists and the kind of drama that can go behind the scenes, including things like issues with like the ligaments in your hands, that kind of thing. But I don't know, it was so much fun. That's all I can say. Doubt the section of books I have read with some fantasy, romantasy-esque book recs. And I'm trying to keep all of these as being as like lighthearted and fun as possible. Now, some of these do have darker themes, like Bambi and The Last Unicorn. Like, some of the stuff that happens is not necessarily cozy and fun times. However, I've been trying to go for the wholesome route. So that's what influenced these picks for the fantasy books. And so the first one I want to talk about is Assistant to the Villain. Obviously, by the title, it's about a girl who ends up becoming assistant to the villain of her town when she happens to run into him in the forest one day, and she kind of saves his life, and in exchange he offers her a job, which she accepts, and obviously it's her and the villain falling in love. This is based off of a skit series that the author Hannah Nicole Mayer had done on TikTok, and she had turned it into this series, which I think has multiple books now out. I've only read the first one. But that being said, I still definitely think it's cute, it's fun, it's lighthearted. Like, you can't really get much better than that. I think, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong about this, but I think I've heard that there's spice in later books, so there's not spice in this first one, because it's kind of a more slower burn. But yeah, moving on. This one probably could have been included in the classics list, but Howl's Moving Castle is such a quintessential springtime book. Like, everywhere from the like flower fields in this, the like different, how do I describe this? Like the thing with her age, with her being cursed to be an old woman and actually feeling more comfortable in an old woman's body than she ever did in her young woman's body. The magic hats. Like, this book it's just so cozy and fun. Like, I can understand why Studio Ghibli picked this up. My goal is to find more books that weren't made into movies by Studio Ghibli that have these vibes. I'm always on the hunt for them, so if you have any recommendations, leave them in the comments below. But, yeah, this one had to be put on the list. And also, like, this is my Fairy Loot special edition. Absolutely gorgeous. Love it. I've only read it for the first time recently, and maybe that's why it didn't get put in with the classics, but beside the point. And then finally, this is also a kind of a recent read, but Violet Thistlewhite is not a villain anymore. This one was so cute. The main character, she has plant magic, and she was basically spent her entire life groomed by the villain of this world. And she is given a chance by the hero when she kills the villain to basically make better choices and live a better life, and she can choose to not be a villain. So she ends up going to this small town that's kind of in the shadow of the villain's castle, and she gets a rent agreement to rent out like half of this apartment shop combo, and she plans on selling flower bouquets and stuff in the shop while living above it, all of that fun stuff. And she's real excited about it until she meets the second, I don't know if you call him, like, landlord, I guess? Because there's a twin brother sister that are the landlord. Sorry, I was trying to hold that cough in. It didn't work. Anyway, there's a brother-sister twin combo who are the owners of the shop that have decided to split it in half because they were just not making rent anymore, and they were hoping the extra income would help them pay for stuff. And they immediately butt heads. Like, he's in her way, she's in his way. He has decided that he didn't like her. Definitely a grumpy sunshine mixture, which is hilarious because she's definitely not a sunshine on the inside, but on the outside, she comes across as timid and shy and all that fun stuff. This is definitely a very introspective book. It's a very character-driven book. If that kind of thing bores you, you probably won't want to get into this. But if you really want to see, like, journeys that people go through on the inside, like different emotional paths they have to take, things that they have to do to address their own traumas, then this is definitely a book you want to check out. The romance ends up being cute. The magic is fun. Like, I don't know what else you'd want. Up next, we have The Rose Bargain. And I actually believe the second book is coming out this month too. So it'd be a great month to read the first one as well. And this is kind of following another society that has like debutantes. Except this year, the queen, who is a fae queen, her son is up for the marriage market, I guess you could say, and she wants to find him a wife. But the caveat is anyone that signs up to participate in this competition to be his wife, they're not allowed to marry ever again. Like, they're gonna marry her son or nobody at all. And on top of that, this queen, for anyone that turns 18, whether they're debutantes or not, they get to choose to make a bargain with the queen. And it's always bargains like, oh, I choose to have, like, a perfect memory, but, like, I lose my left pinky as payment, sort of thing. I think there's one character where she's like, I'm gonna butcher this. I might be mixing two. But this one girl is like, she wishes for a perfect smile, and in exchange, she's not allowed to make left turns. That kind of thing, which is really fun and creative. I've heard it described as Bridgerton meets Fae, which I can definitely see the vibes, but it's definitely more focused on competition. And the competition than, like, Bridgerton's not really a competition show, even though they're competing against each other, if that makes sense. That's beside the point. Okay, finally, the last one I want to include is The Magician of Tiger's Castle. This is actually an adult fantasy debut written by the same author that wrote Holes. You know, Holes, the one that was turned into a Disney movie about them digging everywhere looking for, like, lost treasure or whatever. But he wrote this fantasy book, and it's definitely a goofy, fun time. I don't want to say, it doesn't necessarily read like satire. It's more so, I guess just calling it a comedy keeps it covered, right? And, like, don't get me wrong, there's better fantasy books out there, but that being said, I do think it fits in with the spring vibes. If you're gonna be trying this book, I think this would be a great time of year to be reading it. Yeah. Now that we got that covered, now it's time for the honorable mention round, where I'll bring in a bunch of books I haven't read yet, but just based on the covers or the descriptions, I think that they are going to be great springtime books. Alright, we'll do this one a little bit rapid fire because, like I said, I haven't read them, so I don't know 100%, but just based on vibes, these are definitely, like, springtime reads, I guess. First off, The Healing Season of Pottery. There's just something about this one that just seems so cozy. This seems like a perfect thing to read in spring. I can already tell you when I do get around to reading this book, it's gonna make me want to make pottery. It's just inevitable. Lady Tourmaline? Is that how you say it? Tremaine? Lady Tremaine? This is a Cinderella retelling written by the point of view of the evil stepmother, and things are not necessarily as they seem. The Little Shop of Found Things. I actually came across this by chance at a Barnes & Noble. Never heard anything about it one way or the other, but this seems kind of cute. It seems like it's a time-traveling shop where she's examining some sort of antique, and she gets transported back in time and has to find her way back. And I believe she ends up falling in love when she's back in time, but she's like, this can't work because I'm from the future, sort of thing, which I think is a lot of fun. And again, I don't know, that's like a very spring sounding thing to me. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, I don't know. Despite the cover of this one, To Bleed a Crystal Bloom, while the cover gives winter, I think the story premise itself kind of makes me think of spring, because it is a Rapunzel retelling, and I don't know, Rapunzel feels more like a springtime story than anything to me, but yeah, so To Bleed a Crystal Bloom. And then up next, the Scorpion and the Night Blossom. I think this is another competition book. This one's definitely one that's going to be darker, right? But there's just something, maybe it's just the cover. And we're talking about flowers, even if they're night blossom flowers. But this cover, and it's a romantasy, all of that just screams springtime for me. This princess kills monsters. I absolutely love this cover. Like, look at this. This is gorgeous. You see all those monsters? Like, and this cover screams springtime. So, yeah. I have nothing more to say to that. That's my entire reasoning on why it's on this video list. Also another princess book, but The Princess Knight. I've also heard great things about this book. I actually listened to a podcast where they had the author come on and talk about this book, which I hadn't heard the book until I listened to that podcast, and the author just sounded so nice. And the way that she spoke of the story just made me really want to read it. It's another, like, I don't want to say competition, because she's going to, like, a night school, and she, like, sneaks into this night school because, it's kind of, what's that one, movie called? The one where the really pretty, like, fake dumb girl gets into Harvard and then becomes a lawyer. It's giving those vibes, but with a princess and, like, becoming a knight instead of becoming a lawyer. Clueless! That's what it's called, right? That's the movie I'm thinking of. But that's what these vibes are, and I feel like that in and of itself is a very springtime-esque thing. I don't know. The whole Princess in the Night category as a whole feels like a very springtime-esque thing. Alright, there you have it. That is my master list of springtime book recommendations. Hopefully, by this time next year, I will have even more books to put on this list, and be able to expand it so much. Like, you just saw how many books I have on this list that I haven't even read yet. Imagine what it's going to look like a year from now. But yeah, let me know if you've read any of these, and if you liked any of these. Let me know if there's books that I didn't put on this list that are definitely springtime books. Leave them all the way down in the comments there, so that people can also check out those books as well. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more. Until next time, love ya, goodbye. All right.